Chiti, welcome to the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast. It is such an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Payal. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. And I know I messed up a little bit while the introduction because you had just so many things and somewhere medical terms and everything. I might have not pronounced it correctly, but I'm sure you're going to help us get through that. Let's begin with something very interesting. Integrative health and well-being program. What got you into this field? It's today morning. I'll just tell you the background of why I'm asking this question. So today morning, I was talking with one of my clients, and I was telling them that I'm going to have you on the podcast, and it's about integrative health. And his first question was, "So tell me a little bit more, Payal. What is integrative health about?" And I said, "I don't know. Just wait for her to come on the podcast." So let's begin by knowing what got you into this integrative health and well-being program.
Yeah. So as I grew up in India and I moved to the United States when I was a teenager. And I pursued medical training in the US at one of the top institutions, did my residency at Cornell, again, a leading institution in the world of healthcare. But what I found myself doing over and over again is that I was simply putting band-aids on people, right? So what that means is that it's just a temporary fix to whatever I was doing. And I don't want to be a doctor that people go to only when they're sick. I want to be the type of doctor that people go to just stay healthy, right? It's a very different way of looking at things. And I felt that my Western medicine training, which was in spite of being at the best institution in the world, I wanted to expand on that. I knew that I needed more tools in my toolbox to really focus on how to keep people healthy. This is not what we learn in medical school. So that's the reason why I advanced my personal and professional experience. So personally, before I even started medical school, I actually took a year off and I backpacked through all of Asia by myself for a year, to really understand what Eastern medicine really was. So I spent time in India. I went to Sri Lanka, to Vietnam, Myanmar, and Laos, and all these places for several months to really understand, okay, what does a silent meditation retreat look like? What does spending time with monks, and how can I learn from people actually doing this? And that completely changed my perspective on health and healing. So professionally, what I did was I took a deeper dive in Ayurveda and obtained an additional certification in Ayurveda. I learned acupuncture. I learned something called functional medicine.
Wow.
So I wanted to really become that doctor who keeps people healthy. And that's what inspired me to say integrative medicine is really that future of healthcare, where we're not just using cutting edge Western medicine, we're actually combining that with wisdom of Eastern medicine that's been around for thousands of years. So
Hmm.
why not combine the two and bring the best of both worlds to people? And that's what
Wow.
integrative medicine is all about.
Wow, that's such a great. I can see the integration now, the way you have explained it. So, what's your health routine like, Chitty? What do you do?
So I always practice what I preach, and I always tell people I'm not going to tell you something that I haven't tried myself or I have made my husband try. I use my family as guinea pigs as well. So in my personal life, and what I share in the book with all my readers is that health is not about perfection. Health is about balance, right? So in Western world, we're often bombarded with these images that you have to be perfect, you need a perfect diet, you have to exercise, you have to sleep 8 hours, you have to meditate, you have to do all these things, right? And it's impossible sometimes, it can be overwhelming. Whereas in Eastern medicine, it says that health is about balance and life is full of ups and downs, right? There's going to be some days and weeks and even months where our self-care is not a priority, and that's okay. And recognizing that and sort of supporting our body, our mind, and spirit through those challenges is really important. So I really embrace that idea of balance. So one of the things I really focus on in my personal life is a routine. So in Eastern medicine, routine is number one thing. In Eastern medicine, we don't talk about diet or anything. We say, what time do you eat? What time do you wake up? That's far more important than anything else.
Yeah.
So for me, my routine is my number one priority as best as I can.
Okay.
And then the second thing is I embrace that idea of balance. So I always joke with my friends and my patients and say, there's no food that I won't eat, but every year my husband and I go on a food pilgrimage. So we'll go to Italy, right? Or we go to India. And I will eat all the pasta I can see, all the wine I can drink. When I'm in India, I'm eating all the street food, right? So, but I know that when I come back, I'm going to do something like a 28-day reset that's in the book, that's inspired from this ancient Ayurvedic principle of Panchakarma. So it's all about balance. So it's not that you don't enjoy that birthday cake or celebration or anything like that. It's all about knowing that that cannot continue every single day. So for me, if I'm going to a birthday party and eating out, enjoying a day with my friends, then the next day I'm going to probably do a longer intermittent fasting, or I'll probably eat khichdi most of that day, right? So it's all about balancing things. And that's what I personally do in my life. And that's really what I preach in the book and to all my patients.
Wow, I like the food pilgrimage that you said, where you go to different places and everything. You wrote a book on intentional health. Now, my dad would always tell me that health, health is not, good health is not just the absence of diseases or sickness or problems. So, what constitutes an intentional health?
So intentional health is an extension of what I just discussed, is that often we don't know what healthy really looks like. So what we often do is we go to the doctor says, "Oh, you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol." So we think, "Okay, to be healthy, you have to take these pills." That's what the doctor's telling me.
Right.
Or you watch, a YouTube video or you see a documentary and you say, "Oh, everyone, vegan diet's supposed to be good for people. Okay, let me try the vegan diet," right? So often we're making these health and wellness choices based on what other people are telling us, or media or magazines are telling us what health really looks like. So instead, I encourage everyone to say, let's forget about that noise. Let's pose that question to ourselves. Let's look inward and ask the question, what does health truly look like for me? And it's going to be different for everybody, right? It's not about a picture perfect image. It's more about asking the question, what's important to me? And by doing that, we're setting an intention saying, for my priority is to nourish my body with healthy food. I want to have more energy, right? I want to boost my mood and I want to have a healthier relationship with my friends, my family, or I want more ability to focus or be more productive so I can achieve this goal I've set for myself, right? Whatever it is, it has to be personal. So when we set that intention, it's like putting instruction into a GPS. Then our body, our thoughts, our actions, everything knows exactly where to go. So our conscious and subconscious thoughts and actions are really directed by that intention we're setting. That's why setting an intention is the number one thing I advise people to do for their health, for their personal life, for their professional life, everything. I think the success really depends and is instrumental in developing that intention first.
Wow, Chiti, I'm so loving this conversation. I'm so excited about it because I'm a person who believes a lot into integrative health. I have myself experienced it many, many a times, and I'm a lot into yoga, into meditation. So I'm just so loving what you're saying. Tell me, how can one become intentionally healthy? Are there any steps? Are there any routines that someone should practice?
Exactly. So I'm all about setting an intention first. So in the book, that's the first chapter. Let's set an intention. And then what we do next is transform that intention into action. So it's all about practical, simple solutions that we can all embrace. So in the book, the intention setting is followed by 7 ancient secrets. And
Mhm.
in this, I walk the readers through all the fundamentals of health. So I'll tell you in my practice, I practice in New York City in a very busy institution. So I see people from all walks of life. And I can tell you, most people are coming to me already have a relatively good diet. They're trying to exercise. They're trying to do a lot of the right things. Yet they have some problems.
Yeah.
And that's often because we are missing some of the fundamentals, things that you cannot buy in a bottle, right? In a supplement or a diet or anything like that. So in the book, I start out with the chapter number one, the first priority. So when I meet a patient for the first time, this is their homework. This is how we end our first conversation. I tell them, I want you to take a piece of paper or on your phone. I want you to write down what your routine is going to be over the next month. Okay.
Mm.
So pick a time you want to go to bed, pick a time you want to wake up, and pick 3 times in the day when you're going to have your meals, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I say, I want you to stick to this for the next month. And I don't tell them about making any diet changes. We don't talk about any medication, supplement, nothing. This is step number one. it is one of the most fundamental things is aligning our circadian rhythm, which is the master clock in our body, with that of the nature around us. So actually, 3 years ago, three researchers won a Nobel Prize in medicine for a whole new field called chronobiology, which basically means biology, how our body works according to time. So they discovered that timing of every single thing we do, from when we're waking up to when we're eating, when we are scheduling our busy Zoom meetings at work, all of this,
True.
there is an optimal time to do it. And in Eastern medicine, if you look at Ayurveda, Ayurveda has a clock. Chinese medicine has a clock
Hmm.
when everything around the day should happen. Because I always
Yes.
tell my
Yeah.
patients, physiologically, we're not the same person at 9 a.m. versus 9 p.m. The body's doing something very different. So the more we align our routine with that, the better success we're going to have, the healthier we'll be. So then it doesn't matter what you're eating, doesn't matter if you're aligning it with that timing, it's far more important. So we're talking about, circadian rhythm as our first step. Then we go into other important topics such as gut health, such as mind-body connection. So those are we walk through the seven ancient secrets. So you know exactly what to focus your efforts. So then when you make any diet changes, when you exercise, when you meditate, you're actually getting way better results from it.
Wow. I never thought of it like this when I'm practicing my yoga and my meditation. But you mentioned something very interesting in this conversation. You said everything cannot be brought in a packet. What are those things that cannot be brought in the packet, and some of those that we could actually practice?
Absolutely. So one of the things, like I said, the meal timing, right? Everyone tries to sell you a diet, but
Mhm.
research studies show that more than diet, the timing of things is far more important. The second thing is gut health, right? So how strong your gut bacteria, your gut microbiome is, and how strong your metabolism or your digestion is really key when it comes to our health. So in Ayurveda, there's actually a saying, in Ayurveda, there's a saying that says, food that is digested properly becomes nutrition, and food that is not digested properly becomes toxin and root cause of disease. Food is
Oh,
the same,
wow.
right? So that's the reason I'm sure you've experienced this. I've experienced this where you have on your family or friends. There are always certain people who can literally eat anything and nothing ever happens to them. They never get sick. They don't gain
Yeah.
any weight. Where there's some people who are so careful, right? They try to do everything right, yet they get sick often or they gain weight without even, doing anything wrong.
Uh-huh.
So even if two people in the same family are eating the exact same foods, they can have very different, digestion. Hence, one person could be healthy, one person could get sick. So that's why in Ayurveda, the focus is entirely in optimizing your gut health, your digestion. So these are things you cannot buy. You can buy a diet, right? You can go to a
Right.
restaurant and buy food. You can buy supplements and medications. But how to strengthen your digestion is really entirely dependent on your routine, little things you're doing throughout the day. So, for instance, in the book, I say one quick tip to optimize your digestion is to make sure that you only eat about 75% of your capacity and that you take about 20 minutes to eat food, right? So
20
every time we're
minutes to
eating,
eat your food. Is that what you said?
ex-
Wow.
yes. So often, this is a mistake we often make. We eat really fast. When we
Yeah,
eat
yeah.
really
And
fast,
where's
we
the time,
often
right?
overeat.
We one meeting after another,
Exactly.
so we squeeze in the lunch and the meal actually.
Yeah. But if you think about it, the bigger picture, the food that is nourishing us, the food that is keeping us alive and energized, we're putting that way down in our priority list, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 20 minutes. Wow, I never thought about it. Wow, this is
Yeah.
very
So again,
nice.
we're not even talking about carbohydrates or protein
Yeah,
or any of
yeah,
this. I'm not even
yeah.
going. All I'm saying is that if you eat your food mindfully, if you chew your food properly, take your time and slowly eat your food over 20 minutes, how that food is digested will be completely different,
I'm gonna
right?
try that.
So that's the reason I say don't waste your money on like this diet. Don't torture yourself by eating just salads all day, right? You
Yeah,
can eat as long as it's, and everyone knows if we eat McDonald's all day, we know that's not healthy, right? But in general, I always say if you spend 20 minutes eating, you'll also eat way less because it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for one hormone called leptin, which is a hormone that sends signal to our brain, hey, I'm getting full, slow down, I'm not that hungry anymore. So if we eat within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, our brain never registers, right? So we just keep eating, eating, eating. So we tend to overeat. We eat more than what we can
Yeah,
digest. So
yeah.
majority of that food now becomes toxin, right? Not nutrition. So that's a big difference.
I am going to practice this, Chiti, that is for sure. I will need to have a timer in front of me and really, really make sure that I eat in, in that span of 20 minutes because I do tend to eat food really quickly. And I think this is one of the best advices I am going to take today. Tell me something more, Chiti, and that is I see a lot of executives who are deprived of a good night's sleep. They are waking up at odd hours, then they find it difficult to go back to sleep. What is the cause and the remedy for this?
Yeah. So when we live in a lifestyle where 24/7 our brain is working overtime, our bodies are working overtime, that we never catch a break. Remember, no machine even works 24/7, right? Yet we
Yeah.
expect this body to work 24/7, and obviously we'll bear consequences of that. So our body is designed to do something very different during the daytime and during nighttime. So during the day, like I said, we are eating food, so our body is busy converting food into energy, into nutrition. And at night, this is when it cleans the kitchen, right? So this is when it detoxes, this is when it repairs, rejuvenates the body, and fixes things that are going wrong. So when we don't get the right amount of sleep, the toxins build up, right? The muck starts to gather around in our body. We feel more lethargic, we feel like we're getting sick often, right? Because our body doesn't have time to fix and repair things.
Mm.
So that's the difference is we have to figure out how to give our body that rest. And in fact, if you're a busy executive, if you're performing at peak all the time and you're stressed and you're, really sort of go, go, go all the time, you actually need more time to repair, rejuvenate. So even simple things like the brain. So all day long we're gathering information. And at nighttime when we're sleeping, especially when we're going into deep stages of sleep, that's when our brain actually reorganizes these memories and puts them into long-term memory. And we've
Okay.
all experienced that, right? When we don't get enough good night's sleep, what do? We lose our keys, we misplace simple things,
Yeah.
we make simple typos and errors, right? Because our brain is just not relaxed enough or hasn't rested enough.
True.
So, in fact, we're actually compromising our productivity and our success and our focus when we don't get the sleep. So, that's what I always tell people just like the food, sleep, these are fundamental things our body needs to be at its peak performance. So, these
Oh.
are not the things that we put on the bottom of the list, these are the things we put on top of the list.
So you spoke about like the physical health and you mentioned about what are some of the things we should and shouldn't do. What's the connection? And these days a lot is going on with mental health. So what's the connection between what we eat and our mental health?
So when we are eating something, we're not just feeding our body, we're actually feeding our brain. We're also feeding the trillions of bacteria that are in our gut. So now the latest science of gut health actually tells us that the trillions of bacteria that are in our gut actually produce more than 80% of serotonin. So serotonin is a hormone in the brain that makes us happy, right? So a lot
Yeah,
of antidepressants actually boost serotonin levels in the brain. But
yeah.
now we're recognizing that 80% of the serotonin actually is made in the gut, not in the brain.
Oh, okay.
So that's the reason the food that we eat will dictate what type of bacteria we have in the gut, and that will dictate how much serotonin, dopamine, all these good hormones are actually there. So now we're reframing our idea of what mental health is. We're saying the gut is actually our second brain. So the food we're
Absolutely. Yeah.
eating directly going to affect how we feel. And we're all felt that, right? When we're not eating well, when we're eating not very healthy foods, we just feel our mood is down, right? We don't feel our best selves. So it's not just in our head, it's actually in our gut. So we need to pay attention to the food we're eating as a way to optimize not just our physical health, but also our mental health.
You have uncovered that so well. That is not just the brain, it's the gut also where everything is functioning. Um, Mindset and physical health. Where do you see the connection?
So I think wherever our thoughts go, our body follows. That's how I strongly believe that, right? So if all day long, if we're thinking about negative things, we're saying, oh, I just ate that ice cream. I'm so terrible. I have no self-control, this is terrible. I'm not, I'm gonna feel sick now. This is bad, right? So if we're thinking about that all day long, then that's going to affect our physical health. Versus if we reframe how we're thinking in a more positive way, we say, you know what, I ate that ice cream, but I can do better. So now what I'm going to try to focus, if I have a sweet tooth, maybe I'll eat a date, or maybe I'll have some nuts, or maybe I'll make myself a nice cup of ginger tea with some honey instead of eating the ice cream. So you're reframing the whole scenario in a way where you are in control, right?
Mm,
And you're channeling these positive thoughts. So now your brain is full of positive thoughts. So now body is going to follow those thoughts and those
absolutely.
actions, right?
Yeah.
It's all connected. We cannot separate the two.
Separated. But you know what, Chidi? I have seen so many patients, like I've heard, I've not seen, but I've heard of so many cases where people were sick, terminally ill, but because of that thought process, they have actually come out of it. And I think integrative medicine a lot has to do with even your thought process.
100%. And that's why I say we cannot just focus on the body alone. The
Yeah.
disease, in Chinese medicine, they say the disease often starts in our spirit. And then it manifests in our mind and how we're thinking and our emotions. And then it manifests in the body,
Wow.
right? So if we can catch those disturbances, those imbalances in our spiritual health and our mental health first, we're actually preventing it from becoming a disease in the body.
So is it
So
true to
we have
say
to look
then,
at it.
Chiti, is it true to say then that most of the sickness that is prevailing today is actually born from within us and from the outside?
Majority of it is absolutely. So if you think about thousands of years ago, even hundreds of years ago, people would get sick because of infections, right?
Yeah.
There were bacteria everywhere. So that was the main reason why they got a lot of illness. They didn't have, clean water, clean food, and they didn't have antibiotics. But nowadays, we're seeing that people are still getting very, very sick. We see this epidemic of chronic diseases from diabetes to heart disease to cancer. I'm not saying every single one of them is associated with mental health issues, but I can guarantee you that the mental state of the person with that disease has a huge implication in how severe the disease will be or how they'll respond to treatment.
Hmm.
So we have nothing to lose. We literally have nothing to
A
lose
lot to
by
gain.
focusing on the mental health. A lot to
Yeah,
gain,
a
exactly. So
lot
it's a
to gain if you
no-brainer,
can
no pun
just keep
intended.
the crown of your the crown of the body is good. Everything is going to be great.
Exactly. So it's like, why do we not focus on it, right? It's a win-win situation. And it's also, I always tell people that some of these behaviors, some of the ways we're thinking about health, I know it's new and I know it's different. But
Mhm.
when you actually think about it, it just makes so much more sense, right? It's not something you have to memorize. And you're like, wait, does that make sense? It's just common sense. It just clicks, right? Everything we're talking about is actually nothing new. It's just something that just makes sense. And we just gotten away from it over time. So I think
Mm.
it's time we bring that common sense back into our lives.
Absolutely. That is so nice. You've given us such great tips. Tell us one piece of advice that you would love to give to people who are looking for success. I mean, you're successful at what you're doing. What would be your advice to those who are getting there?
So I always say start with an intention, have a very clear idea of what you want.
Mhm.
And think about it all day and bring your body back to that intention every single day. So every morning when I wake up, instead of looking at my phone, I'll close my eyes and set an intention for the day. What do
Mhm.
I want to happen today? Right. And at the end of the day, when I'm going to bed, I close my eyes again for a few seconds and I say, thank you for the wonderful day I had. Even if it's challenging, I learned so much from those challenges. Right. So I think just by developing that practice of starting your day with an intention and ending your day with gratitude can
Yeah.
be so powerful, right? It's going to completely change how your mind works and how your body follows those
I
directions.
agree. I agree. I practice that, Chiti. So I so resonate with what you're saying. I can say 100% it really, really works and has a great impact on yourself, on your mindset, the way you approach people, and the way you approach your day. So you feel in control actually, you know. So I think that's great. So thank you so much, Chiti. I know how busy your schedule is, but yet you took the time to come on the podcast and share your insights. And it was a wonderful conversation with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
And this one's for our audience. This is Chiti Parikh and Payal Nanjiani wishing you loads of success in your career life. God bless.